Dog ear. It was years before I learned to call this prayer. The right-hand corner of a page turned down to make another page. I attempted to escape, then returned to the boneyard where I'd removed an earring from my wife's right ear. Diamond, the crux of the universe contracting to leave a pin-sized hole midair. In that margin, my words remain transfixed until she disappears. Proof that while I swore the world I'd created would double like a hand beneath my own, it merely stretches before me in consolation. There. So I'm sorry for opening with a poem about disappointment. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Dan. I love this space. So it's nice to be here today. I'm going to read another poem from Dog Ear here. It's a poem about Evel Knievel and his attempt to jump the fountain at Caesar's Palace in 1969. It was an unsuccessful jump. You can go and watch it on YouTube. Knievel crashes and actually goes into a coma for a few months after this jump. He was fine. He definitely jumped again. He'd jump the Grand Canyon later in his life. So the poem is a glossa in 4 parts, and I thought that it was an appropriate form because it mimics the jump. Knievel contemplating the jump, the rise, the flight, and the crash. So it glosses a stanza from Roddy Lumsden. So you hear these lines from Roddy within the poem. Heard myself speak fluently in my own language. Have heard myself too described as hard work, as hard to get through as Scotch broth, though once someone rather blattered told me I was magnetic. So this is Evel Knievel negotiates the fountain at Caesar's Palace. Behold my face at a quarter turn, dragonly, dog-eared, a carnal mask mirroring half-lit spits of wood. This morning Nevada furrows, my shoulders too warm for leather, yet I've no better armor against the wind, the stagey palms that threaten to bend and replace my stationary ramps, Caesar's fountain. Downrange, I prepare to be bandaged, hear myself speak fluently in my own language, bridge the strips around my bicep, it's where not like that, grip the razor downhill, there, push. I turn my gaze towards the melee that surrounds my bike, making's landfill a network of forgotten jumps, a backwards glance before a maelstrom of sand. Derelict, I've seen how closely my muse lurks, have heard myself described as hard work, having the face of an eagle, lion, and ox. Tricked out in off-white chaps, cape, the valley of the shadow of death, I gauge the line from rubber to ramp, uncamp its frame on doubled wings. Fountain side, Romans balance, flock to witness my ramshackle horse coupled with sky. Behold my stance, my corrugated flanks that rake the air, its absence, as hard to get through as Scotch broth, though once I groped around and found myself unmoored at latitude. What mechanics hold me, having already landed? What patience, body tossed ass first over the gas tank's hive? The desert revives as if in dream, my head a brick, a helmeted weather vane unraveling in every plane at once. Lo, it's clear that this is paradise, and if given a mic, someone rather blattered will tell me I'm magnetic. So, I'm selling dog ears for $5 tonight. I wanted to try to undercut Fawn's chapbook. So. I'm going to read a cover poem now. I always like to read a cover poem when I give readings. So I'm going to read something from The Next Wave, which is an anthology that I curated last year. And I also always like to read a poem for my wife. So I'm going to dedicate this to her. It's a poem by Raul Fernandez called The Goodnight Skirt. The Goodnight Skirt. Permission to use that snowball you've been keeping in the freezer since 1998. For a poem, she asks. What else, I say. I'll trade you, she says, for that thing your mom said at the park. What was it? God, that Mallard's being a real douchebag? Yes, that one. Deal, I say. Okay, how about the Korean boy who walks past our house late at night singing Moon River? Oh, you can use that, I say. I wouldn't even know what to do with it. But there is something else. I've been wanting to write about the black skirt we've been using to cover the lovebird's cage. The goodnight skirt. In exchange, I'll let you have our drunken mailman, the tailless tabby, and I'll throw in the broken grandfather clock we found in the forest. One more, she says. Last night, I say. The whole night. She considers for a while, then, okay, that's fair. But I really had something going with that lovebird. All right, I say, write it anyway. If it's more beautiful than mine, it's yours. So I'll read a couple from my latest book, The Chemical Life. This is a little rhyming piece I wrote about the internet. It's called About Face. I can't tell a sliver from a seed. I can't tell a fever from its peak. I can't tell words from an attack. But I can tell you, you can't. I can't tell over from overuse. I can't tell no from an excuse. I can't tell timing from bad luck. But I can tell you that you can't. I can't tell flags from opera blood. I can't tell outrage from what the fuck. I can't tell forever to fall back. But I can tell you that you can't. So this will be the last poem that I read. I think I need to drop a few more F-bombs to tack on tonight, but I'm not sure there's any in here. So you win. It was a real pleasure to read with Vaughn and Kramer. You're both two of my favorite young writers in the city, so thank you for sharing the stage with me tonight, and thanks again, Dan, for having me. This last poem, there's a lot of poems in this book named after drugs. This is named after a drug I've taken for 20 years for anxiety disorder, venlafaxine, which is better known as Effexor. The poem is about the time that Mark DiSeverio spent living in Toronto when we would hang out in the park in the summer and listen to records. So this is dedicated to Mark. I was really happy he was able to make it out tonight.
Thank you so much.
Venlafaxine. The needle dropped out of habit, tongue interlocking with a tooth-cut groove. On Roncesvalles, before command reinforced our fear of shame, we'd circle Sororan Avenue Park like wolves loosed from the infirmary. The dame's rockets were armed with blossoms, and because we were free to fill in the field's texture, its grass and grain, I'd slide discs from poly sleeves as my brother cased the corner where moths lined the gates like lookouts, beating through an unchanged city. Before the caps downed to keep us more us, the gates were peacock blue. The blues rerun, each note howled where an ocean threatened to overthrow the stylus mid-song, tidal flash diminishing our senses, our sense of self. Painted with a too small hand, you can see how brushstrokes overwhelm the mind, the cortex questioning, are we not? Are we not more than the first word or the last? Whoever set our interrogation to consciousness set it on the LP we mistook for landscape, set it with recurring strain, dizziness overwhelming the park's round. Curfew. Tonight I'll move over shared ground, my mind free to feel, free will rippling out like shark gills. Thanks so much.